So when I say that I am simplifying an expression versus like solving an equation, first of all, an expression has no equal sign. So the word simplify always goes with an expression, and the word solve always goes with an equation, because an equation must have an equal sign. And so when you're simplifying, the entire goal is that you're wanting to reduce to its simplest form. So, for example, if I had 3x plus 2x minus 5 minus 8. This would be considered an expression because why? No equal sign, so there's nothing to solve. So you wouldn't say x equals 5. That would not make any sense because there's no equal sign. But if I want to reduce it to its simplest form, what are some things that I could do? I could distribute. And so I'm going to rewrite it. 3x plus, when I distribute, it becomes what? Minus 8. Okay, now what are the next steps to simplify? What can I do next? Yeah, I can combine the like terms. So the x's will go together, and then the numbers will go together. So if I'm combining like terms, I'm left with 5x. Then when I combine the numbers together, that becomes what? Minus 18. Good. So if I'm solving an equation, the entire goal is that you want to isolate a variable. What does the word variable mean? What's an example of a variable? X. Doesn't have to be x, but it's normally a letter. So you want to isolate a variable. So if I say solve for x, then I want to isolate that variable to find all possible solutions. So let's say my example is 3x plus 2x minus 5 equals 8. Different than the first example because why? Equal sign, perfect. So what would my first step be if I want to get the x by itself? What do I need to do first? I still need to distribute. So that gives me equals 8. What would my next step be? I can still combine like terms. So the 3x and the 2x can go together. But what do I need to do with that 10? I need to move it to the other side. So I need to add 10 to both sides, move it over to the right side of the equal sign. So then 5x equals what? 18. I'm still not done. What's my last step? Divide by 5, so x equals what? Leave it as a fraction, 18 over 5. And you would leave it just like that unless you could reduce. In this class, I don't like decimals most of the time. 99% of the time, you won't use decimals. You're going to leave it as a fraction. And also, don't tell me that it's 3 3/5. I don't want that either. So no mixed fractions. Leave it as an improper. Trying to make it as simple as possible. Now, here we have a phrase that's written, and we want to write an equation given the variables and the phrase that it tells me. So, if I wanted to make an equation for the number n of days in W weeks, think about and just write down for a second what you think that would be. And you need to consider the number of days in a week, obviously. So just take a second, try to write an equation for that. So if I read this, it would say like the number of days is 7 times the number of weeks. So if I substituted 2, there's 14 days in 2 weeks, right? So 7 times 2 weeks equals 14 days. So you can kind of check yourself that way. Make sure that it works out. Okay, the next one, it says the product P. So it's going to be a P equals of 2 consecutive integers. What does it mean to be consecutive? Not the same. Back to back, like in a row. So just somebody shout out 2 consecutive numbers. 3 and 4. And so it's, or 5 and 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So you're going to have the number, first integer being n. So I'm going to put n there. Product means what? Multiplication, so times. If my first number is n, then my second number in terms of n would be what? N plus 1. Because like if I have 3, if 3 is my n, to get 4 I have to add 1. If I had 5, to get to 6 I have to add 1. So consecutive, you're just adding 1 to the second. And then the multiplication part of it is the word product. Okay, so since we did this one, I want you to try number 3 on your own. Maybe check it with the person next to you. I'm going to get you started. So the sum S, so it's going to be an S equals. Sum means what? If product meant multiplication, sum means addition. And we're going to have 3 consecutive odd integers. So let's just name some consecutive odd integers. So if my first integer is 3, what would the next integer be after that? 5. And then the next one would be 7. Perfect. So I want you to write this equation, but write it in terms of n. n plus 2 plus n plus 4. Now, why do we have 2's and 4's instead of like 1 and 2? Because it's odd, right? So we have to skip 2 instead of 1. So that word odd means that I have to get like 3, 5, and 7, having to add 2 to each one instead of 3, 4, 5. Awesome. Okay, number 4. The distance d a car travels in t hours at a speed of r miles per hour. So what's going to go on the left side of the equal sign? D equals travels in t hours at a speed of r miles per hour. Think about it. Write it down. What did you get? TR or RT. Either one. DRT. Probably learn that when you get to physics. Yeah, so we're going to transition to something different. So this section, like I said, is kind of all over the place, but I promise it all comes together in the end. So when I see the word evaluate, and then it gives me values for B and for G, what do you think I would need to do? Plug them in. So go ahead and do that. You do not need a calculator. You won't use a calculator very often in this class. And come to a final answer. I want you to change number 6 to 4 minus x squared. And I want you to try simplifying that one. So distribute, combine like terms. Can anyone see, and this is just me being really nitpicky, but can anyone see a way that we could simplify this even more? What do you think?
We divide everything by 2.
Divide everything by 2. However, there's no equal sign. So since there's no equal sign, I can't divide everything by 2, but I can pull a 2 out. So essentially I'm taking 2 out of everything, then what's left over? So if I divide the first term by 2, 3x squared, and what's the middle term become? Minus x, then what? Minus 6. Like I said, that's just me being really nitpicky. I would accept, obviously, either one, but always looking for common factors is important, especially when we get to factoring, because factoring is fun. Number 7, I want you to change this to 4 plus x squared. Otherwise, we're going to have to factor, which I don't think we're ready for that yet. You're supposed to say, yes, we are. Oh, we'll get there. Don't you worry. You're going to be factoring champs by the end of this. Okay, try number 7 with the 4 plus x squared. And we're solving it. So, negative 10. Okay, PEMDAS. You want to remember what that stands for?
Yes.
The P is parentheses. I'm not even going to spell that out. This is not a spelling class. E is for and exponents. Give me an example of something that has an exponent. Like 2 to the third power. Just want to make sure you know what exponent means. The M and the D are what? Multiply, divide. Do you multiply before you divide? Or do they go together? Together. So they happen at the same time. So if you had like 2 divided by 3 times 4, you would not do the 2 times 4 first and then divide. So they happen at the same time. They're almost written side by side. In this case, you just go left to right. Like you're reading a book. And the A and the S are for add, subtract. And you do those at the same time as well, left to right. So no calculator, try number 1. Are we all done with it? And our brains are stumped because we're like, what happened? So here is so every chapter this whole year, there will be one mistake that everyone makes that is a common mistake. And this year, I'm trying to combat that. So I'm going to pick out one mistake every chapter, and I'm going to say, I have a little board that I put up last year, that when you make this mistake, you kill a puppy. And I'm going to keep a tally of how many puppies that we kill. And our goal is to kill 0 puppies, because who wants to kill a puppy? No one. So here's what all of you did, is you said that negative 4 squared equals a positive 16. That's what you did. But when you did that, you did not realize that you killed a puppy, because there are no parentheses around it. So let me rewrite this as negative 1 times 4 squared. Does that change things for you? So what do I need to do first if I have negative 1 times 4 squared? What comes first? Multiplication or exponent? Exponent. So if exponent comes first, then I have negative 1 times 16, which then becomes what? Negative 16. And a live puppy. Not a dead puppy. Puppy killed. Right here. And I'm obsessed with my puppy, so don't kill a puppy. So if you have, let me just I want you to write this down, and I want you to circle it and highlight it, because this is the most common mistake, and I don't want you to make it. If you have a negative in front of a number with an exponent, and there are no parentheses around, you keep that sign, okay? If I had negative 4 squared, then that would be a positive 16 because the negative 4 is in parentheses. Okay, so let me write this out to the side and let me show you the two ways. Negative 4 squared is negative 16. Parenthesis, negative 4 squared is a positive 16 because it's in parentheses. So if I were to finish this out, I'm going to erase the puppy killed. If I were to finish this out, I've got negative 16 minus 10 plus a positive 16. These will cancel each other out to leave just a negative 10. You've probably been doing this your whole life, aka in Algebra 1. Don't kill a puppy, that's all I'm going to say. Okay, try number 2 with the knowledge that you have moving forward. So you would not multiply the negative 3 and 2 because of this exponent right here. So you got to do the exponent first for it to become 4. Then comes the multiplication. So these, honestly, they just take some practice. And in these examples, we tried to come up with the most common mistakes, and we're trying to trick you. So you're welcome. So parentheses are not confusion. Parentheses are meant to hold the number inside. And you just have to read it left to right. You're trying to get rid of the parentheses as much as you can. So keep them until the last moment. You can, and also on your homework, you can check your answer on the calculator. I'm not saying you can't. Just want you to try and be able to do it without doing so. So last year we realized that fractions are the devil.
Oh my gosh, that.
Jinx. But they're not the devil, so we want to encourage you to like fractions. So first thing that we want to do with both of these is we want to find a least common denominator for all of them. So let's look at all of the denominators. So we've got 9, 4, 18, and 2. What is one number that they all have in common? 36. So let's make them all 36. So the first one would be negative 2 times 4 is negative 8. What do I have to multiply the 4 by? 9. So minus 9. Minus. You can keep these in parentheses if you want. You don't have to. The 5 over 18 becomes what?
10 over 30.
And the minus and negative becomes plus. Then 1/2 becomes what? Good. See, that wasn't that bad. And you can do parentheses instead of brackets. Now, combine the first two. Negative 8 minus 9 becomes
1.
Negative 17 over 36 minus What is the stuff in parentheses? Negative 10 plus 18. 8. So minus 8 over 36. If I keep going, I'm going to combine the numerators. So negative 17 minus 8 becomes what? Negative 25 over 36. Can I reduce this anymore? I am done. See, it wasn't that bad. You thought it was going to be bad. It was not. Okay, here we have fraction over a fraction. Now this is where it gets really fun, in my opinion. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to rewrite this as 4 over 1 over 4 over 5. Then I'm going to write this as 4 over 5 over 4 over 1. So now we have two sets of fractions, and I want to reduce it to one set of fraction, or one fraction, like a number over a number. But right now we have number over number over number over number. We have two of them. And so the easiest way to do that is to multiply by the least common denominator of all of the little denominators. So essentially what I want to do is I want to multiply everything, multiply by least common denominator. So what would the least common denominator be between 1, 5, and 5 and 1?
5.
Multiply everything by 5. So when I multiply everything by 5, so this is times 5 over 1, times 5 over 1, times 5 over 1, times 5 over 1. And you don't have to write all of this out. I'm just kind of showing you the long way. I would hope that eventually, maybe like when you're doing your homework, it'll start being where you just do it in your head. So what is the first one, like the top left fraction become when I multiply by 5? 20? What does the bottom left become? The 5's cancel, correct?
4.
So just 4. Minus, what does the top right become? 5's cancel, correct? So just 4. Bottom, 20. Now this looks better, right? A little bit. What do I do now? Common denominator, which would be 20, which means I need to do what?
5, 4, 5.
Which gets me 20 times 5 is 100 minus 4 over 20. So 96 over 20. Gonna have to come up here. And that reduces to, let's see. They're both odd. They're both even. So try reducing this fraction. Just gonna let you try and do this. I don't think I have enough brain power right now. But you guys do. Okay, I got 24 over 5. But you're thinking, how do I do that without a calculator? That seems crazy. I just divided it by 2. Notice that they were still both even. Divided it by 2 again. Okay, I want you to try number 5 on your own or with the person next to you. Okay, I think I wasn't recording any of that, and I kind of wish that I was, but hopefully if you go back and rewatch this video, you'll just remember the good times we had, and all of this work will suffice for you. So this is copied from somebody's work from last year that we don't like. So think of somebody that you just don't like, and they did this and they did it wrong, and they got a bad grade. We're going to fix it for them. Don't say their names out loud, please, but...
Wait, you know who that is? Wait, this is an actual person?
Yes, this is an actual person.
Someone does their work this neat?
Yes.
Where back in you.
What did this person do wrong?
On their first.
Right when they started. There's no hope for them. Because they distributed the 2 and they should not have. So you need to do what first? Parentheses or exponent. First, you cannot distribute. I don't know if I spelled parentheses right. Oh well. So let's correct it. How do I FOIL this? Is this right? Is this right?
I want to say yes, but you're going to say no.
I'm going to say no, and that's also killing a puppy, but we'll get to that in another chapter. This is not right. If you do this, I will publicly shame you. It is not right. It needs to be 2. X plus 3, x plus 3, because that's what squaring it means, right? Multiplying it by itself.
Oh la la.
Then you foiled it.
Shoot me.
I'm not going to say that that's killing a puppy just yet because we'll get to that in a later chapter. But if you write this as x squared plus 9, I will publicly shame you.
I think I'm going to kill the whole litter at this point.
It's fine. I'll just go home at night and cry about it.
If all the puppies are dead, we can't kill anyone.
There's no way to kill all the puppies.
I'll take one for the team.
I'm going to put a picture of my puppy up here just so that you know. Okay, what do I do from here? If I want to, you can leave it like this, or you can distribute the 2 if you want. You don't have to. Okay. You want to just take the easy way out and everything? Is that the way it's going to be?
No, I just wanted to, I mean, if it works, it's better.
But I'll accept either of them, because I kind of prefer this anyway.
Okay, I was about to ask.
Just want to make sure that the top one.
I was doing what you wanted.
I know. That's all I can ask. Okay, these exponent rules should have been learned in Algebra 1. I realize that you have slept since then and it's been probably 2 years for you. So we are going to refresh your memory on how to simplify exponents. So, meaning is kind of like drawing it out the long way, but I don't ever ask you to do that. I just want you to visualize it. So when you have exponents that are side by side, you add the exponents. So I kind of have like a hand motion for them. When they are side by side, I put my fists side by side, like this. Everyone do this with me. When they are side by side, you add the exponents. So side by side, add. You may be laughing, but it works. When you have one on top of the other, so everybody make your fist one on top of the other, you subtract. So the meaning of it is saying x to the 5th. So I'm going to put 5 x's over 2 x's. Then I'm going to cancel 1, 2, 1, 2, and I'm left with x to the 3rd. Now, you don't have to draw all of that out. I'm just showing you the long way. All we did was subtract the exponents 5 minus 2. The official rule, x to the m over, x to the n is equal to x to the m minus n. That's like the formal way to write it, but you're just subtracting. Now, next one. So we have our fifths, we add, we subtract. The next one is power to a power. So there's one that's above the other slightly, like diagonally. When you have a power to a power, you multiply. It's like saying x squared, x squared, x squared 3 times. Those combine to be x to the what power? 6. So I'm just multiplying 2 times 3. The formal rule, m to the nth power equals x m times n. Multiply. Those are all of the little fist movements. We're done with those, unfortunately. The next one is distribute. You're going to do that for this one and for this one. Distribute. So the 3 gets distributed to the x and to the y. The long way to write it is xy, xy, xy 3 times because it's cubed. Combine the x's, combine the y's. That's the formal rule. The second one, you're going to distribute the squared, so it's like saying xx over yy, x squared over y squared. Okay, the next one is negative exponents. This is what people have the hardest time with because if I say simplify, you can never have a negative exponent in your answer. I almost made this killing a puppy, but I didn't. It's like almost killing a puppy. So I would rewrite this as, if you have a negative exponent, it becomes positive when it flips to the other side of the fraction. So right now, it is x to the negative 2 over 1. If I want to simplify that, I'm going to flip it, and it becomes, why isn't it, oh, it was on the eraser. It becomes 1 over x squared. So what happened is it was a negative exponent on top. When it passed through the line, think about it like as a wizard or something, like it passed through, becomes positive on the other side. Okay? It is a wizard that passes through the line. So then, if that's the rule, then what would be the simplest version of b? What would this equal? X squared. Awesome. So the rule is you're going to move negative exponents to be positive. That's a plus sign. I might write the word positive. So look at the next one. What would this one simplify to be? If I'm subtracting the exponents, right, because that's what the second rule is, 2 minus 2 is what? 0. So x to the 0 power. Anything to the 0 power is always 1. Anything to the 0 power is always 1. So I'm going to write this as 0 power. So anything with the exponent of 0 is always 1. Anything with 0 exponent equals 1. So that could be 155,000 to the 0 power equals 1. So, while we go through these, we're going to look at some of the common mistakes that will hopefully help you for your homework. So, number 1, with our fists, what do? It's 1 over the other, which means we subtract. Awesome. So, we subtract. So, since we subtract 3 minus 7, -4, so that means 1 over a to the 4th.
We're so smart.
To keep it positive, it's always going to side with the one that's bigger. So the 7 is bigger, so it stays on the bottom. So I always think 7 minus 3, like I do bigger minus smaller. But I know that it stays on the bottom because it's bigger on the bottom. The exponent is bigger. Number 2. Did that confuse you?
I just didn't.
If it confused you, then just
Okay.
tune me out. Okay, number 2. I'm going to take this -3. It's a power to a power. So that means I do what with the -3? Distribute. Distribute it. And when I distribute it, I've got 2 to the -3 over 5 to the -3. I cannot leave it like this because of the what? Negative exponents. They are evil. So, to make them both positive, I switch both of them. So, 5 to the 3rd over 2 to the 3rd. Now, if you were lazy, then you could leave it like this. But then I would call you lazy because you need to be able to do this in your head. This is something a non-calculator portion of a test, it could show up. So, 5 to the 3rd is what?
125.
125. It is not 15. If you put 15, shame on you. 2 to the 3rd is 8. Good. Do not multiply these. It is not 15. So I'm going to put 15 and I'm going to put a big X through it and I'm going to say shame on you. And you may think, oh, I'll never do that. That's stupid. That's a stupid mistake. But if you do it, I'm going to publicly shame you. Okay. Number 3. I have x over y to the -2. There's really nothing to distribute because there's no parentheses. The only thing that's wrong about this that makes it not in its simplest form is the what? The negative exponent. What do I need to do to it?
Flip it.
Flip it. Bring it to the top. Do I need to do anything with the x? The x is good.
Yes.
So since the x is good, I keep it there. xy squared. Don't bring the x to the bottom. That makes it negative. The only thing that needs to pass through the line is the -1 to become positive. The other things will stay as they are. Number 4, and this is what I saw a lot of people do, and don't make this mistake. We treat the number itself and the variable as 2 separate terms. So the 3 is one thing, and the x to the -2 is a separate thing. So what I want you to do right now is I want you to circle both of them. I want you to circle the 3, and I want you to circle the x to the -2. They are 2 separate items. They're separated by a multiply sign. It's just invisible. So then that 4 needs to get distributed to both of them. 3 to the 4th, and then x to the -2 to the 4th. And I need to multiply those. So this becomes 3 to the 4th, x to the what? -2 times 4 is -8. Is 3 to the 4th 12? No, shame on you if you say 12. Not 12. because it's not 3 times 4. It's like saying 3 times 3 times 3 times 3. 4 times. So then you get what? 3 times 3 is 9. 9 times 3, 27 times 3, 81. What happens to the x to the negative 8? It needs to move, right? It needs to go down. So 81 over x to the 8th. So the next one, now knowing what we know, that the 3 and the x squared are separated, this becomes 3 cubed x to the what? 6th 2 x cubed. And it's just in parentheses, but there's really nothing to do, so I'm going to take it out. Is 3 cubed 9? No, if you put 9, shame on you. Not 9. It's not 3 times 3. It is 3 to the 3rd power. So 3 times 3 times 3, which is what? 27. Then I'm going to combine the like terms. So if I have x to the 6th and x to the 3rd, they are side by side. Got my fist side by side. What do I do with side by side? Add. So x to the 9th, and then I have this times 2. I could have done that all in one step, but I did not. So 27 times 2 is what? 54 x to the 9th.
Well, that's just simplified.
So you only multiplied. So why wouldn't you multiply the x to the 9th part? Is that because it's connected?
Yes, it's connected.
Okay.
So all the x's go together, and then all the numbers go together.
Oh, Lord.
Okay, next one. Power to a power. What do I do with it? Multiply. So this becomes 4 to the 6th over 4 to the 5th. That reduces to what?
4.
Just 4. Number 7. This 4 gets distributed to everything. So 2 to the 4th. X to the what? And then 5 to the 4th. 2 to the 4th is what? 16. 2 times 2 times 2 times 2. X to the 8th stays the same. 5 to the 4th. 5 to the 3rd is 125. Multiply that by 5 again. What do you get?
6. No. Wait, what was
You can do this. 125 times 5. 625. Awesome. Okay, number 8. This negative 2 gets distributed to everything. You've got a negative exponent times a negative exponent. That actually ends up making it what? Positive. So x squared. Y to the negative 2. Z to the what? Negative 4. The x is good to go. I don't need to touch the x. But I do need to flip the y and the z. They need to pass through the line. So my final answer becomes x squared z to the 4th over y squared. Perfect. Okay, I'm going to stop here. The last 4, they're probably the most challenging, so I would say go back to Canvas and look at those.
Oh my gosh.
They are on Canvas, and the answer key is up there for the notes. So go back and look at those.